On again.
Yep.
Welcome everyone, thanks very much indeed for coming. My name is James Kelly, I'm chairperson of the Westport Historical Society, and this is a lunchtime update on our plans for the former Westport Courthouse. This event is organised for Heritage Week 2025, which runs until Sunday, the 24th. So this is just a brief update. The plan is I'll just say a few words, then I'll hand over to our architect, David Power of CoxPower Architects here in Westport, and he'll say a few words. The idea was to make this a lunchtime event so that people could pop along and get back to wherever they need to be in good time. So we won't go into too much detail on this occasion. We had an event in the town hall for COVID week. So if anyone is interested, the QR code is here on the panel. That'll bring you to the YouTube video that Ollie kindly made. So you can also find it on Dr. Oliver White's YouTube channel. So let me just see. Some of you may have already seen these information panels we installed in the building earlier this week. What I might do is just briefly talk through some of the contents. In brief, the background to all of this is that the court service closed the courthouse in 2013 on health and safety grounds, and that closure was confirmed as permanent in 2018. In 2021, ownership of the building was transferred from the court service to Mayo County Council, who in due course sought expressions of interest for alternative uses of the building, and in 2023 Westport Historical Society was offered the opportunity to enter into a lease arrangement with the council. So our plan is to move from our current premises at the Quay, the Clue Bay Heritage Centre, into the courthouse, which will be our new local museum heritage centre. So I might just walk along. I hope the mic works if I do. The first panel here shows we have a current map, just a brief introduction on our plan for the courthouse. In late last year we were awarded a grant of €25,000 by the Heritage Council to carry out surveys on the building, and I want to acknowledge again our gratitude to the Heritage Council for that grant, as it has allowed us to take the first steps in this project. So it's been absolutely crucial. We needed to conduct surveys on the building in order to ascertain its condition and so on. So what we have here is details of those surveys. So we have a measurement topographic survey of the building and the surrounds, asbestos survey, ecology survey, building condition survey, and we have a conservation management plan prepared. Unfortunately, our conservation architect, Cool McGann, couldn't be here today. She has prepared the conservation management plan. We're not yet at the design stage of the project where we know exactly what's going to go where, but we have outline ideas that the main exhibition area will be in the courtroom, what was the courtroom, and will flow, we hope, into an extension at the back of the building, a new extra space at the back of the building. I should have said, by the way, that we can't unfortunately go inside today. I'm sorry. It's a condition both of our lease and the insurance. The ceiling in the courtroom is unsafe. So unfortunately that's the reality at the moment. But so the outline plan is that the exhibition area is in the courtroom. We're looking at a mezzanine level, something like the old gallery that was originally in the courtroom. The idea being that we'll display all sorts of objects and documents of images of local historical interest. We'll be trying to use all the latest technology available, such as museum tour apps, audio guides, all sorts of interactive technology. We would also hope that the courtroom, the main exhibition area, will double for other uses, like book launches and so on. So, I mean, the priority is that it's a community building, that it's used by the community, and that it's available to as much of the community as possible. We're looking at, we will need archival storage space, a reading room, study area, digitization facilities for scanning, photographing, etc., meeting room, various offices and so on. So those photos just show the front, the back, the side, so on, and the courtroom, you can see that's a recent photo. It doesn't show the damage on the ceiling there, so unfortunately, but the second panel here, we have the couple of the old maps. This is the 1838, this is 1895, revised a bit later. It's you can see the courthouse just highlighted there in red on those maps. This gives you a little bit of the history of the building, built in 1840 to 41, very quick building project. And it talks about some of the other uses the building was put to, for such as being an election venue for counts and voting. It was used for auctions, many different uses over the years. It was designed by Henry Brett, who was the county surveyor at the time, possibly working from existing designs. This is an excerpt from the Dictionary of Irish Architects on Henry Brett. He also designed the courthouse in Swinford, which is basically a twin of Westport, is a twin of Swinford and vice versa. They were built at the same time as well. So Lord Sligo gave the site for the courthouse, the plot. I think it was 100 by 100 feet square. So and it was built by Anthony and Michael Clark. Their tender was £988. So it was a good deal. There was a little bridewell, a little prison built at the back, 1842 to 3. That's at the back of what's now Corcoran's house next door. That didn't last very long. It was there for maybe 30 years. It was demolished, so it's so those are another few photos. There's a couple of photos there of the cell. There's some nice brick vaulted ceilings in the cell, the Garda room up above. This is the judge's room here on the left. There's a few architectural details and so on in that panel. And the farthest panel there, there's some drawings there that give an idea of the chronology. Basically, most of what's here today is pretty much original. I mean, there's some small extensions at the back, which are much later. But it has, most of it has survived. I mean, it hasn't been radically changed, which is great that we inherit this. So those are the panels, and as I say, they're up for Heritage Week, and you can always have a look at them and have a look at the talk. There's some more history there if you'd like to. And at the moment now, I hand over to David Power, our architect, and he'll say a few words on the issues with the building and so on. So thank you.
Thanks, James. If Coola were here, she'd talk a little bit about the significance of the building and what's important in it. So I might just kind of give you some idea of some of the important characteristics of the building. So obviously you have the very fine cut stonework, you have cast iron gutters, you have in the roof space, we don't have photos here today, but there's amazing king post trusses. Inside the building you've got lath and plaster ceilings and very fine fireplaces and so on. So part of what Kula was doing was to try in her management plan to identify all of the characteristics of the building that you want to preserve as you move forward with the new uses. So there's a recognition that these buildings won't survive unless they get new uses. So, but at the same time, you want to try and see what you absolutely have to change. For example, there's a discussion about all of the courtroom fittings. It's very hard to have an exhibition space where the whole room is filled up with fittings. But there are areas of particular interest, like the judge's bench and all of the timber work around that appears to be from the original building, and some of the other timber work is of later date. So that's a lot of what's been done here to, if you like, survey the building, has been to try and capture it as a base for doing the next phase of works. So we've done laser scans, KGSS, a local firm, did laser scanning of the whole building using drones. There's been bat surveys, SWIFT surveys, ecological surveys, and asbestos. So once you start working in these old buildings, you need to be very careful. In fact, it's nearly the first thing you want to be thinking about in any building pre-2000 is there asbestos that you're going to disturb. So there is asbestos. The asbestos was identified on the back lean-to roof, which you can see here. And it's actually, they couldn't get up on the main roof at the time, but it appears to be the same slate. So any works would have to take into account the presence of asbestos slates. Just talking a little bit about some of the problems the building has, because that's the big challenge, is to use this building. While you're preserving its integrity, you also need to make the building usable for the people inside. So James has already mentioned the problem of safety, and the really big issue for this building is these very elegantly designed chimneys. I mean, they're a centerpiece of the way the building was conceived by the architects originally, but they have caused problems. So if you look at how high they are, chimneys on the back of this building have already been entirely rebuilt. One of them, we know that, possibly people here may know that it actually happened, but we can see that every stone has been numbered, which means that somebody took them down and put them back up again. So, but more importantly, if you like, there's a slight lean on the chimneys at the back, but there's a much greater problem with those chimneys is that they're actually spreading water through the entire building. So the fireplaces are actually quite distant from where the chimneys are. So the architect, when he was designing, or she was designing this building, decided that the chimney had to be centre on each elevation on the two sides, and similarly at the back. They're positioned for the aesthetic of the building, but that means that the flues from those chimneys are spreading through the whole building, and with them they're spreading water everywhere. So their first challenge, if you like, yeah, you can see them on these images here. So the first challenge is to deal with those chimneys. The other issues then internally, there's and it's related to the chimneys again, but like an old building, any old building was heated using fireplaces, and they were, by nature, they were fairly drafty, a lot of air moving around, drying out the building constantly. So stone walls, like these stone walls, the thickness tended to be dictated by damp as much as structure. So the idea was it gets wet all winter, it dries out during the summer, and before the water actually gets to the inside face of the building, it's already dried out again. Part of that is the chimney structure, like there's constantly air moving inside the building to dry out the building. The other part of it is like warm and wet winters that we have now. warm and wet summers where it doesn't really dry out that much. And then there are other things that tend to be done to buildings, and it has been done here, is sometimes these joints are filled with cement, which doesn't allow water to come back out, traps water in the wall, and that issue is here. It's in a lot of older buildings. And similarly at the back, they plastered the full back wall to try and dry it, but it has the problem that once the water comes in from the chimneys, it's now come into the courtroom because it can't dry out the back. So now the ceilings in the courtroom are collapsing, and they're quite dangerous. So it's the reason James is saying we can't go in there. So they're the kind of highlights of the problems, if you like. Other stuff is much more easy to solve, like there's very nice stone floors, they're a little bit uneven, they're broken, they're covered by a carpet, but you'd like to pick up the carpet and refit those stone flags. The thing James was saying about archiving and storage, so one of the reasons we're thinking about extending the building to the rear is that you want to create quite dry spaces for archiving, and also there were toilets put on at the back, but there's no insulation in them in the building. Those two little pods at the back, you can see them there at the plan. They're very substandard. We don't want to put too many services in the old building because it does too much destruction, so we're thinking we put the services at the back in this new building with the archiving, and that helps to protect the old building. So I think that's just, I mean, there's a lot more. I could go on for hours, you know, about it. There's loads of stuff in that building of interest and also to be done. There's some of the old sash windows are still there, but you have some PVC windows which are kind of taken away from the character of the building, which you'd like to see replaced with the traditional sash, much as they've done here. Yeah, no, it's an exciting project to be involved in for us as local architects, and for Coola McGann, who's also another local architect. So thanks very much for listening. Thank you.
Thanks very much, David. If you have any questions, we'd be happy to try and answer them. I don't think we need to let this go on too long. People might need to get back, but I just wanted to say we will keep people up to date, you know, at each stage of this. So we will organise something as soon as the next stage starts to become clear. These things don't move so quickly generally, but we're pushing it, and I also just want to add that membership is open of Westport Historical Society. Everyone is very welcome. Anyone who hasn't already joined is welcome to join. You can call in at the Heritage Centre, or email us, you'll find us online. And that's about it from me, so thanks very much everyone for coming, and thanks David for saying those few words. Thank you.